Hey, good morning, Dan. How are you? Welcome to Over 50 Starting Over. And we got a special guest episode in this episode with our friend of the show, Dan the Fireman. And haven't seen you in at least 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, it's been a while, right?
Yeah. Okay, so this is a special guest episode about, and it's a horrible, I can't think of a great way to put this. It's a horrible subject matter, but it's one that has pretty much an interest to every one of us at some point here soon. And that is, when do you know when it's time to put your parent into assisted living? And what might that be? So it's a tough conversation, but I did want to start off with mentioning that Dan, you know that Dan has recently retired, and we had a surprise retirement party for him on Friday night, and it was a roast. It was so funny. And you were totally surprised.
Yes, completely. Never saw it coming.
Yeah.
So that probably made it even more special than it really was.
Oh, I think it was. I mean, really, you walking in with the look of sheer surprise. You were about to fall down. It was so funny with the biggest smile on your face. And so this was held at JT's place way out in Lodi. And he and Allie did this amazing job of putting together this whole thing for you, decorated the place up. And as he said, it was on the theme of a Comedy Central roast. And boy, I had some misgivings about that. I told JT just before we got started with it, we are just going to sit here and watch every one of us bomb for the next hour or so. And it's going to be so cringy. And to tell you the truth, no, everybody did great. It was hysterical. I still have some to see yet via video because Lisa and I had to leave early because of Charlie. But they also catered an amazing dinner. I don't know. Do you know who catered that?
I do not.
It was amazing.
It was delicious. Yes.
Yeah. So every aspect of it was fantastic. But I guess now you are so officially retired, there's nothing else left to do except retire. Just chill.
Yeah. Just enjoy.
How did it feel being put up against the wall and roasted like that by 15 people?
It felt great. I knew, everyone in the room was a dear friend, obviously. So I knew it couldn't be horrible, if you will. But
right.
I think the success of a roast, in a lot of respects, as much as the people that are doing the roasting are important, you got to have a willing participant in the roastee. So, I understand a roast, and I just expected to get skewered, and I just thought it'd be fun. I'd go along for the ride and be a good sport about it.
Well, you are a good sport, and you have a terrific sense of humor. So you're one of the few people that I think could really handle that the way you did. So let's get serious here. You are here because you are really in the thick of this subject matter about discussing between you and your brother and sister how to manage your mother. And in a typical situation, she is stubbornly hanging on to her house.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And she's pretty frail. And how old is she now?
91.
Wow. Okay. Now, see, my mother is 80 and Lisa's mom just turned 80. And while my mom is very vital, very much so, she's like a strong German woman, very much Martha Stewart. Will never come. Oh, you know what? I wanted to mention something while I noticed it. Remember my eye, which is kind of obviously yeek?
Oh, yeah.
The red eye. I went to urgent care yesterday just to be sure. Because you, the paramedic, you diagnosed it and you're like, that thing, it just happens when it strains, especially as you get older. It's a subconjunctival hemorrhage, and it is completely harmless. As soon as the doctor came in, she's like, yep, that's what it is. And she just did some tests, followed my finger and all that. And for those of you that are listening, my left eye is extremely red. Like, it's gross in the mirror. It looks, it's scary. And it did seem to worsen over a couple of days, but it is rather common. And you said, well, you could get it by straining in this way or that way. She said, a hard sneeze. And dude, my sneezes are violent.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate that. That's probably what happened, like in the middle of the night or something. Right. Or I got a little bit of hay fever and I ground in my eye with my finger really hard, which I do. So, that's what that is, guys. So, hey, back to what I was saying. So my mom, her situation is a little unique, and there's all these different situations I want to bring up because we all have unique situations. With my mom, she is very healthy, very vital, but she did have my brother and I tear out her old deck last year because it was very high maintenance with the wood that needs painting all the time and all the rails and all this. So we tore it out and put in a flat brick patio, which is absolutely gorgeous with planters, less landscaping to be done, less of everything, much lower maintenance in every regard. She's thinking in those regards. But what really got me, and I had to do some thinking about it, she's always had this little dog and cat. And, I'd come over when she would go on vacation and watch the house and the dog and cat and stuff. And well, the cat passed away a couple years ago. And I'd always ask, are you going to get another cat? And she's like, I don't know. I don't think so. And then, I've been saying, okay, so Rusty, her little dog now is something like 13 years old. He seems really vital, but 13 years old is getting old for a dog. And I've been, hey, you're going to get another dog. He's been so perfect, such the perfect dog for her. And she's starting to kind of lean in the direction of no. And I know what this is, and she wouldn't just verbalize it. She is downsizing by attrition, so that she is not such a burden or what have you. In our case, she was going to end up going to my brother and sister-in-laws to live when she is not able to. Now, she has talked about getting a condo, maybe. I think these kind of things are very hard on everyone that has to go through them, the older people. And so in whatever case it's going to be, I know that that's what my mom's doing. It just makes me really sad because she's always been so strong. She's always had the dog. All of these things are changing, and these are really tough things. So tell me about your situation.
Well, so I'm the youngest of three, and my oldest sibling is 64. So that's another thing that people, I think, don't realize is you have people that are basically, could have an ARP card and a Golden Buckeye card, and they're taking care of someone that is extremely elderly. So it's not a bunch of 20 and 30-year-olds taking care of a parent. It's people that are in their 50s and 60s, and maybe
that's a good point,
in their 70s. That's not unheard of. So even though I could tell you what my week is like, a typical week with my mom, and people that aren't doing it would think, well, that's not a big deal. And it is a big deal because when you get older, everything's harder. And it's a lot of driving. It's extra shopping. It's extra this, it's extra that. It's explaining things 3 or 4 times instead of just once. And then it's the worry.
Thank God you retired.
Yeah. And it's the worry too, because in my case, my mom is a widow and lives alone. And there were steps to take, and each step was like climbing a mountain in terms of trying to get her to do something. The first big step for us was getting her to wear a life alert pendant. Okay.
What is that exactly?
That's just it's a small pendant. Boy, maybe the size of a matchbook. Okay. Of a pack of matches, and there's a button, and she's tied into a 24/7 operator that's on standby at all times. So if she gets into a problem, she can't make it to the phone, she can press that button and she's immediately put in touch with an operator. It's all voice activated. So she can just talk and they're going to hear her, and she can say, hey, I fell down. I need help. I need EMS or what have you.
That's very cool. Has she ever had to use it yet though?
Yeah, one time.
Oh.
And thankfully it wasn't anything very serious. She did fall. She fell upstairs in her hallway, which is carpeted. And it was just one of those things. I'm not sure if she was just scared of what had just happened, but she felt like she couldn't get up off the floor. So she hit her life alert, and they started rolling the local fire department to her house. I got a phone call. I happened to be at work that night, and they said, yeah, your mother, she seems okay, but EMS is going over there, so you might want to get over there yourself. And I headed over there, and yeah, she had a fall, and knock on wood, she didn't injure herself in any way. I think she just more mentally shook up than physically. But that was the first big thing was, Mom, whenever you're awake, this needs to be around your neck at all times. And it took forever to get her to do that. You'd go over there sometimes and she wouldn't have it on. Well, Mom, where's your life alert? Well, I didn't think I'd be doing a lot today, so I didn't think I needed to wear it. And it's just, and then from my standpoint, as a firefighter, boy, an accident can happen just like that.
Oh yeah.
Just like that. And I said, Mom, something's going to happen, and you're going to press that life alert, and it's not going to be around your neck because you didn't put it on. And I said, you gotta, as soon, and that was the other thing. There's a charger for it, same as for a cell phone.
Yeah, but see, there you go. You just raised an important point, because like with my mom, I'm trying to get her to carry her cell phone with her at all times. Like we do. We all do it just normally. If it's not with us, we feel like something's missing.
Correct.
That generation is there, and there's no telling them. And so you're right. I mean, so to get her to charge that, that's got to be like, that's got to be sure.
That took forever too, but we wound up putting that charger on her nightstand. And it became one of those things when you're getting ready to go to bed, you brush your teeth, you do what you do, and then you crawl into bed. And I said, Mom, I said, when you crawl into bed, you take off your life alert, you slip it into the charger.
There you go.
Wake up in the morning, you pull it out of the charger, you put it on, and you start your day.
Nice.
And now we're doing it, but it took forever. It took forever just to get to that point.
Yeah.
And thankfully, we never had an issue.
All right. So I got two questions here for you. So I assume that you had some real heart-to-heart discussions about downsizing out of the house. She doesn't want to do that.
She doesn't want to leave her house.
And they never do, you understand. And as I recall, didn't you even put in one of those motorized things to go up the stairs, a chair?
We did. So what happened, the background on that is she had that fall that I spoke about earlier. And I don't know what happened. I think it might have been psychological more than physical, because she got a clean bill of health, but she just all of a sudden had difficulty walking. So we decided to let her ambulate and recuperate, I should say, at my sister's house. My sister has a ranch, whereas my mother lives in a colonial. The bathroom is upstairs and the bedrooms are upstairs, so up and down the stairs. We started talking to my mom while she was recuperating at my sister's, and we said, you're going up those stairs 4 or 5 times a day. And you got to remember that, this house was built in the 1930s, I believe. So it was built really well. Hardwood stairs that are very hard, like a hammer, unforgiving, not carpeted. My mother doesn't like carpet on the stairs.
There's give and take to that. I was sitting here like, which is better? Because you can trip on carpeting. Oh, yeah. But you can slip on hardwood. So I tend to think a very low nap carpeting of some sort would be best.
It would be best, but
Yeah.
she doesn't want that, number one. And number two, they're just steep stairs.
Yeah.
It's just how they're designed.
Yeah.
And you go up 9 or 10 steps, you get to the landing, then you do a hard 90,
Mhm.
and there's 3 more steps up to the second floor. She has handrails, which are very sturdy, which are very good. But we started talking to her about the stair lift,
Mhm.
and she didn't want that. But then we started talking some more about it, and believe it or not, she finally agreed to having that done.
Yeah, but does she ever use it?
Never used it. And I feel and I
How much did that cost?
Oh, you ready? $11,000.
Oh my God. So who pays for that?
Well, she paid for it because insurance doesn't cover that.
Ooh.
Which is sad, because when you think about that, if that would prevent someone from falling down the stairs and breaking their hip or worse,
Yeah.
right, and being in a hospital forever in a nursing home, it's infinitely cheaper, right?
Infinitely.
But that's a whole nother story, healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
But we did talk to her. We convinced her to do it. My sister is power of attorney for my mother, and that's another thing is when you have multiple siblings, it's good to make sure that everybody has a specific job. My sister's the eldest, and it just made sense. So she takes care of the purse strings and the healthcare issues. I do other things, but we talked to my mom. She gave us the approval to do it. We wound up going with a local company just because we just wanted to take care of the local guy. They did a great job. Brought my mom home. She saw it, and she just immediately said it looked like the electric chair to her. It was she didn't want it in her house, and it's like, well, you really, you could take it out of here, but where are you going to put it?
Yeah.
That rail system that goes up the stairs and then has that curve.
Mm-hmm.
That's unique to my mom's stairwell. It's still there. She uses the chair for a quilt rack. When you walk in the house, there's 2 quilts just draped over it.
That's typical exercise equipment in the basement.
Yes.
Most expensive coat hangers you ever owned.
Exactly. Yeah. So she refuses to use it. That's frustrating, but again, she lives by herself for the most part.
And at what point what are the signs you're looking for when it's like, okay, we can't even listen to you anymore, you need assisted living? What's that going to look like?
Well, I don't think we're there yet.
No.
She still has her faculties. She's a little bit slower, obviously, from a mental standpoint, but she knows what she's doing, and she can feed herself. Now, we get her groceries for her. She really doesn't leave the house anymore unless we're taking her to a doctor's appointment or we're taking her out somewhere.
I'm just saying, to me, and I know that we slowly degrade over time, but from where I'm sitting, that sounds like a horrible way to live out your days.
I think it is. Yeah. And it's not like my sister and I don't constantly ask her to do things. COVID was an issue, and I didn't blame her for not wanting to go out during COVID. But now that we're basically out of that, I did get her out last week, and Janine and I took her out to lunch, and then we went to that Rockefeller Park greenhouse. And I said, Mom, you got to get out of your house at least once or twice a week. You got to get out. You got to be around other people.
Can she drive?
That's another thing that we should touch on, is taking the key, knowing when to take the keys away. Well,
that is a big issue. And it's an issue that Lisa and I discuss about her mom, and she terrifies me driving. And I talked to her in Florida, the last 2 years, that she could Uber cheaper for as little as the slight distance that she goes to get anything, as little as she does, she could Uber cheaper than to maintain this car.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she's terrifying driving.
Yeah, and what's going to happen with that, and they're going to get to that point where they're going to mistake the brake pedal for the
Yes.
gas pedal, or vice
That
versa.
just happened in Tampa or something.
It happens everywhere. I can
Yeah.
tell you, in my career, we saw it all the time.
Oh.
It just normally no one gets hurt.
Yeah, I just saw a headline like last
Yeah.
week. Some elderly person did that and killed somebody.
Yeah, and it's only a matter of time before they either have their first accident, they run a light, they don't see a stop sign.
Pull out into traffic and don't see the oncoming traffic.
Correct.
Sure, that's what I'm terrified of.
So what we did with my mom was, basically you could see kind of the gradual decrease just in her physical abilities. So she went from walking completely normal to starting to like narrow down her stride, almost starting to shuffle. Then she started kind of every now and then she'd get a little wobbly, and they call it furniture walking. Now when she's walking, she's reaching out for walls or furniture. And I told my sister, who's the eldest again, I said, I don't think mom should be driving. And there was, for months, was the waffling about having the discussion. And then basically I just decided to have it with my mom. And I sat her down and I said, look, this is what happens at work a lot. This is what I see. And I said, do you really want to hurt somebody, or worse, kill somebody just because you want the privilege of driving your car? If you were 100% healthy, I wouldn't have an issue here. I said, but you can't even walk normal. What makes you think you can drive safely?
How'd you handle this?
Well, it was, there was a little bit of a back and forth. I want my independence and this, that, and the other thing. And I assured her that, hey, we can do your grocery shopping for you. It's not an issue. We can go to the post office for you. We can pick up your medications, that kind of thing. But it was more of a, mom, you don't drive anymore except to go to the post office and to go to the grocery store. So it's not a big deal. You don't even drive. She stopped driving over from the east side to the west side. She used to drive over to my house and visit, and then she just didn't want to do it, lost confidence, what have you. And it was the gradual, I'm not driving on a freeway anymore.
Right.
It's too fast. It's too scary. And then, you know what? I don't even like being on roads that are a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit or have 4 lanes. It's too much. And it's just a gradual thing. And I think for the average child of an elderly person, it's common sense. You look at them one day and you're like, they just shouldn't be driving. This is crazy.
That's still a tough one. It's easier said than done.
Oh, yeah.
Because I am really afraid that our final sign with Lisa's mom is going to be an accident.
Right.
And that's a tough one. So where do you stand with your mom in driving? Is that done?
Oh yeah, that's done. Probably been a couple of years now.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you guys feel that she can no longer take care of herself, is she going to your sisters?
She would most likely go to my sisters. I would be happy to have her here with us. We have a duplex and could easily put her on the second floor, which is
she's got her privacy.
Yeah. And once she's on the second floor, everything on the second floor is on one level. So she'd have no more stairs. As of right now, she appreciates the offers, from her kids, but she doesn't want to leave her house.
Okay. Now see, Lisa's mom is okay. So your mom has her own typical standalone house, but the stairs. My mom has her own standalone house, but it's a ranch.
Okay.
And as I said, she's been trying to make things lower and lower maintenance, even though she's in very good health. Lisa's mom is in a retirement community, which is in all these situations are a little bit different and they have advantages and disadvantages. Lisa's mom has a couple stairs to get up into her home. It's all one floor. So that's great. The best thing about it is it's a retirement community. They have their privacy, but they're all very close to each other. And so they take care of each other. They keep an eye on each other. So it's can be quite some time. I mean, God, I hate this conversation, but it literally could be her next move. Her last move could be hospice, possibly. Now, in your case, now in my mom's case, I have a feeling that she will just, because she's so strong mentally and physically, she'll tell us when she wants to finally downsize, and it'll be really hard on all of us. And your mom is going to be kicking and screaming, I'm pretty sure. And I think that's mostly the case.
Yeah, I think my mom is never going to say, I don't think I should live here anymore. Yeah. I just don't see that happening. And she doesn't live in the greatest of areas anymore. It's still safe, but the odds of something random happening to her there are a lot better than if she was here with us or my sisters. And I think maybe that'll be the catalyst. I think, you know, the neighbor's house will be a home invasion, or the house across the street will get shot up in a drive-by. Without going into morbid detail. I think it's going to be a situation like that where she may feel like maybe I'm not safe here anymore. That
in some ways could be a really ideal way to go. It would be the way she could make that decision.
Yes.
I want to share something with you. I looked up a few different articles that I think give some good food for thought. This one especially, it's called exceptionallylivingcenters.com. Right. And I didn't see drive-by shootings in this, but it's 9 signs it's time. When do I put my parents into assisted living? Most of these are just really common sense, but let's see if we hit on something that's an eye-opener. Number 1, inability to maintain their day-to-day activities. Very obvious. Number 2, aren't able to maintain their homes. And I was wondering, how is your mom with that? You got to clean that whole house.
Yeah. So let me back you up to 1.
Okay.
Mom absolutely suffers from the inability to maintain her own activities because she doesn't shop for herself anymore. She doesn't go to the pharmacy anymore. If my sister and I were not bringing her groceries, leftovers from when we're cooking at home, and going and getting her prescriptions, my mom would be, you know, up the creek without the paddle. Gotcha. So my mother definitely is failing, number 1. And back to number 2, she does some minimal cleaning, but she can't vacuum anymore. She can't mop a floor.
Do you guys do that once in a while for her, or pay someone?
Well, you know what? She's able to keep her house pretty clean because, God bless you.
Thank you.
Because it's just her. She has no pets. So it's not like her, and her house is neat. It's not cluttered. But she'd probably be thumbs down on a cleaning lady, because she'd just say, well, they can't do it as good as I can. But then the argument is, well, Mom, you don't. You know, so there's that. But in terms of cleaning, neither one of us go over there and do a big deep clean for her because it just doesn't really need. But my mom can't do that though. She can't maintain her home.
You know,
so that's number 2.
Even here, we once a month we have a couple of cleaning ladies come in and clean, in spite of the place being immaculate all the time. Right. But it's not that expensive. It's like 150. It'd be probably $150 for your mom. I mean, to do that like a couple times a year, I think it'd be great.
Oh yeah. She'd just have to agree to it, but she wouldn't.
There's that. Number 3. This is an important one. Number 3, they're forgetting their medications.
She's not doing that, but she does forget to tell you she's running low.
So
I try to make notes in my calendar when I pick up a 30-day, prescription for her.
Mhm.
I try to just put it into my calendar. All right, I picked it up March 5th, early April. I got to start thinking about that again.
Yeah.
But I forget about that sometimes.
Yeah.
And she'll call and she'll say, "Oh, I only have 2 Eliquis left."
What is that?
And then you have to almost. Eliquis is a blood thinner
Oh.
that she's on. And for instance, you'll have to almost drop what you're doing and,
Mm.
and call the pharmacy and put in the order, because that's the other thing. My mom doesn't want it delivered to her house,
Why?
refuses to do that. That would make our lives just doesn't want to do it. And then when you try to tell her, when you try to say, Mom, this would be easier for us, we wouldn't have to make a special stop at a pharmacy and we wouldn't have to bring it over. Then her answer is, well, you just don't want to see me as much then.
Oh my
That's
God.
her answer.
That's so manipulative.
Yeah. She thinks that, there's nothing else going on in our lives and we just are sitting around waiting to fill her prescription or go grocery shopping for her.
Yeah, very true. Which brings us to number 4. Their personality is not the same. Well, you're not having that problem with your mom yet.
No. You know what? I noticed with her, and in fact, I'm addressing this today. She gets hyper focused on the most inane things.
Well, sure, she's got nothing else going on in her day.
Right. So here we go. Spring forward with our clocks the other day.
Mm-hmm.
On Saturday, she called me and just so concerned about when does this happen? What time? How do I do it? And it's like, Mom, it's okay. Don't worry. I'll get you through it, kind of thing. And then that segued into, I need my batteries replaced in my smoke detectors.
Sure.
And I said, I'll be happy to do that for you. And then it became, okay, but only get me Duracell. That's the only battery I like is Duracell. Okay. All right, Mom, I'll do my best to get you Duracell. But she got hooked into that. And then she got hooked into one of her clocks. The battery died. And trying to explain to a 91-year-old woman how to tell if it's AA or AAA. She called me 4 times that day. I still can't figure it out. I said, Mom, I'll just bring both batteries.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that.
Well, how much will that cost?
They are expensive.
They are expensive. Can you return one if you don't?
You'll always need them.
Yeah.
So
her personality is not the same because that old mantra of don't sweat the small stuff. She sweats the small stuff big time.
Well, that's what really happens with people when they get older and their worlds shrink. They don't have other important things filling up their day. It reminds me of the Seinfeld episode, which was hilarious. And this is on a smaller scale, but when George's parents moved to Florida to this retirement community, and then for some reason Kramer's down there, and he's running for mayor of the retirement community or something, and somebody else is writing the newsletter like it's the New York Post or something, and it's just so funny. That microcosm. When you get older.
That was Del Boca Vista was the name of that retirement community.
Just exactly what it should be. Let's see what we've got here. 5, changes in their eating habits. How's your mom doing there?
Yeah, she's lost a lot of weight over the years.
Oh, that's right. That's been an issue.
That's been a big issue.
She just doesn't have the appetite. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think as you get older, you lose your appetite a little bit. But it's still important to eat, and eating is such a social function as much as a nutritional thing. I find that when she's with us having a meal, or if she's with my sister having a meal, she eats everything. She eats like a normal person. She eats a normal portion. But when she's home alone, half the time, I think she might even forget
Yeah, I think that's what it
that
is.
she needs to eat. So she's lost a lot of weight, and she
Mm,
knows that.
mm.
But the last time we were at the doctor for a checkup, the doctor's like, well, she's kind of at this plateau with her weight loss where she's kind of maintaining where she's at. And let's hope for the best. I mean, that's
Yeah.
basically what the doc said. But I do know if mom lived with one of us, she'd eat a lot better.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, for sure. At 91, some change is going to happen one way or the
Yeah.
other. So brings us to number 6, changes in personal hygiene. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely one heck of a sign right there.
Yeah. And it's not horrible for my mom, but yeah, there's changes. And
Mm.
I won't go into gory detail on
No,
that.
no,
But
but that's
yeah,
something that's inevitably going to continue to degrade. And that's one of those things, like everything else about this, it affects their dignity so
right.
much. And that's the thing, like with my mom, that's what kills me is I don't want to see her suffer in the dignity department. Let's go to number
Right.
7. We already addressed this, really increasing number of accidents. Now, Lisa's mom broke her hip in a fall a few years back. That was awful. But she's been, and that was at least 6 or 7 years ago. And she's been good in that regard since. My mother has been fine since she got in an accident with my aunt some years ago, about 6 years ago, and she broke her back. They both broke their backs in a car accident.
Remember that.
But she came back. She would say herself 95%. So really good in that regard. Now you say your mom had that pretty bad fall there. Well, a scare.
Her hip. Well, yeah, my mom broke her hip years ago. I think when she's around 75. Broke her hip, and she recuperated.
She have a replacement?
Yeah. She had the whole 9 yards done.
Yeah.
But she bounced back from that. But you know what? She hasn't had I can't even say an increasing amount of accidents. You know, I look at her, she's got the paper, her skin is paper thin. She's got a lot of bruising on her arms, and that's from bumping into things when she's furniture walking. So in scope of accidents, that's about what it is. So, but still, is it increasing? Sure. Because her accidents are minor, not driving. So you don't have to worry about that. She ambulates okay with a cane, etc. But she's not falling. So it's probably more of a sudden, I got dizzy, I lost my balance, and I bumped into the dining room table, and that's that. But
yeah, I know my mom was helping me paint interior room a couple years ago, and she said to me, I don't want to get up on a small step ladder to do this wall here. Just don't feel like that's smart for me to do anymore. Get a little bit dizzy up there. And I was like, man, I just thoroughly appreciated the fact that I was a little surprised that she was accepting and aware of that. I mean, that really made me happy, to tell you the truth, because the theme of the story is with you is battling. It's typical too, battling stubbornness. I think we're on number 8. They get sick more often.
Knock on wood, mom does not get sick.
And I'd say same with both of our moms too, at least to this point. Number 9, the last one, isolation and loneliness.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one.
She is very isolated.
But she doesn't seem lonely though.
Yeah, you know what? I asked her point blank. I said, I don't think it's healthy for you to be alone like this. And her answer to me was, I lived through the Great Depression, and I lost your father 30 some years ago when my dad died.
Wow.
She goes, this is not a big deal to me. That was exactly her answer.
She's a different animal,
she is a different animal, and I know you and me and pretty much everyone else we know. We would lose our minds if we were just home all day,
Mm-hmm.
not able to leave our homes,
Mm-hmm.
really not able to go outside. Your kids can't be there
Mm-hmm.
all the time. She seems perfectly fine with it.
I always remember, I quoted it on this podcast probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, but I always remember the special I heard on NPR years ago. And it was about an old lady. She was past 100, and she'd been in assisted living for like 10 years or something. I mean, she was like 106 or something.
Wow. Wow.
And her whole story, she said that basically it was like a prison, because everyone she loved is gone, and it has been for a long time. She said all she's got to do to get her through the day is watch the sun set and the sun rise.
Yeah.
And that's it. You're in confinement. I think that's it sounds so horrible way to go out.
I think
we all think about retirement. I'm going to travel, this, that, or the other. But then you got, what if you live in this degree of semi-disability for 20 years?
Yeah.
And
you think about other cultures. You think about the Europeans, for instance, and when their parents get to the point that they shouldn't be alone, they move in.
Yeah.
The parents move in with the children.
It's common practice.
Yeah, and they value that, because that grandparent instills all these wonderful values in the
Wisdom.
in the children.
Mm-hmm.
And those kids get wonderful memories and it might only be for a few years, but cooking with grandma and doing this with grandpa, and they're valued. And it's not that we don't value our mom, because we do value our mom or our mothers, but as they want it their way.
Yeah.
And you got to cut your losses a lot. And that's what I've learned. Instead of being mad that my mom chooses to put herself at risk by just simply climbing the stairs and not using a stair lift,
Mm-hmm.
you get to a point where you're like, I'm doing everything I can as an adult son. And if something happens, it's going to happen. And you can't beat yourself up about it.
Correct. Now,
so that's where I'm at with mom.
And that's a really important point. And the one thing along those lines to remember is you have very limited time left. So you're not going to change someone at this point. So accept them. You're going to frustrate yourself and ruin your relationship. So accept what you can. Now, in my mom's situation, it seems likely that she will move in with my brother and sister-in-law, as my sister-in-law's mother did until she passed. And it was a really good, healthy situation, but it depends on those parents more than anything, their disposition. And they both have wonderful dispositions. So I think that'll be great. What I want to ask you about, because I think you would probably know this, is if it were to go the assisted living route, do you know how is that taken care of? Medicaid or something, or is it solely off of investments?
I think it all depends on how nice of a place you want.
Of course,
amenities. I think if you do go the Medicare route, you're not going to get a real nice place. And
this is what we hear about, the nightmares of abuse, maybe.
Yeah, probably. I think if you're going to go to a decent place for assisted living, I think you're going to be spending $4, $5, $6 grand a month.
Oh, wow.
Easily. And, my mom is doing assisted living at home because my sister and I are doing almost everything for her. My mom will cook to a certain extent. She'll make a salad. We're taking her meals and we're doing everything for her. She's kind of in assisted living right now, but I think she's probably happier in her own home than she would be in an assisted living facility.
I think she'd drive everybody nuts around her.
probably be a mass murder at the assisted living facility that you lived at. But I think, it's just cutting your losses at the end of the day. I think you do what you can to keep them safe. And you get, we're over there between my sister and I, we're there probably about 4 days a week. Where we go over and we're spending some time with her. Now that COVID's over, excuse me, we're back to taking her out again, getting her out at least once a week. We're taking her somewhere for a lunch.
Well, that's good. That's really good.
And I think it's probably smart not to think about 5 years down the road when your parent's 91. I think it's more like 5 months down the road.
That's very true. And now let's throw this into the mix.
Yeah.
I have an article here that I'm not going to get too into. I'm just going to tell you the main subject matter. Cellular rejuvenation experiment in mice reverses signs of aging. And yeah. So it seems like while it's a long way off for humans, a new study investigating long-term partial reprogramming of cells in mice appears to have produced intriguing results.
Okay.
We're very elated that we can use this approach across the lifespan to slow down aging in normal animals. The technique is both safe and effective in mice. I don't know, how great is that?
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can do anything to make yourself healthier or slow down negative effects that make you sicker, I think it's a great idea.
Do you really think we're supposed to be here that long?
Well, no.
I mean, you can get into a lot of like theological arguments about, well, what about going to heaven or the next life, or
right.
Everybody will just argue about what that is or what that isn't. What I wonder is, I don't know, should we really be here that long?
Well, you know what, that's an interesting question. And to me, my answer to that is, as we get older, it's impossible to not think about death. Right.
Sure. And we should think about it. Yeah.
And, like you think I'm almost 53 now. And it's like, well, I'm definitely more than halfway there, and then you narrow your life down to, well, I just retired and I'm hoping for 20 good years where I can do things, I think you get to a certain age and I don't think you're anywhere near afraid of death. I think you get to the point where you're like, boy, it's just a struggle every day.
Yeah.
I've lived a long life. I've had a lot of experiences and I'm good.
I kind of think that too. I'm more afraid of living too long, like that lady in that, like I told you about that 100+ lady in that nursing home.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to be doing that. My mom, I think my mom still enjoys things, seeing the grandchildren or, seeing our cat. She likes playing with the cat. She certainly is capable of having enjoyment in her life. I think there's just this simple, subtle, segue that happens, and you just get to a point and you're like, I'm good. Whatever happens.
Yeah. Our population is aging so much, so rapidly that we're going to have the world's largest retired population here in the US in the next coming years. And that means that we have less working population to support all of these people. So now we go and have these mice over here living forever. And, all of a sudden we're going to start popping some pills and we're going to start living twice as long. Maybe we got to figure out what to do with that economically.
Can you imagine being that old though? I mean, yeah, you can live to be 110, but what kind of living is that? Are you going to look and feel 60 or are you going to look and feel 90,
Yeah.
That's where I would be at. I think it's great. I would have to experience a big benefit on my end for me to feel like, hey, this is worth it.
Right.
So who knows where that's at?
Yeah, who knows where that's at?
But
Uh,
I tell you, the interesting thing though about all these people that are retiring or assisted living age, et cetera, again, maybe, this country should look at other countries and how they treat their elderly. And maybe certain things should be embraced. Like, hey, if you take in an elderly parent, you get some sort of a tax break.
God, I would
Um,
think so.
there
Mhm.
has to be there has to be some sort of cooperation with everybody, um, to do the common sense things,
You're right about that, but I don't trust our government, that our government is that benevolent that they would be like, hey, we should do this. It's the right thing. Because
Right.
they're all bought off by the corporations, and
Well,
it's however the corporations can make
yeah,
every ounce of money they can.
yeah. And I'm sure the assisted living and the nursing home lobbyists are quite plentiful as well.
Yeah,
And,
they're tied right into the rest of
and,
the medical
and
community.
right,
Yeah.
and they're everywhere. But you think about it, you get child tax credits all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You would think it's almost like daycare with your kid.
Well, sure, it is.
And you think about it though, it's like, man, if I send my kid to daycare, number one, it's going to cost a lot of money. Number two, they're going to be around all these other sick kids, and my kid's probably going to get sick more.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost the same thing with an elderly
It is.
person. If you can keep them out of a hospital or a nursing home, they're probably going to be healthier. They're going to eat better living with you. They're going to be just respected better living with you.
Yeah.
Obviously, when it comes to the point where they can't ambulate anymore and they can't take care of themselves, and maybe they need to be in a facility. But just like my mom, for instance, just to schlep her off right now and put her in assisted living because we don't want to, run errands for her, et cetera, et cetera. That'd be terrible.
Yeah, it would.
She's better off at home for the most part, and she's happier. And I just think it's better, and my wife and I say all the time, if there's anyone that deserves to go to bed one night and just not wake up and just, lay in a warm bed and that's the end of it, it's her.
Mm.
And every other, elderly person out there, they all deserve that dignity of just going to bed and and that's it. Not falling down the stairs, laying like a heap for 3 days until and that was the other thing too. I saw that so much in my career, and you wonder why, don't they have family?
Right.
Aren't their children calling them and saying, wait a minute, I've tried to call mom 4 times today and she's not answering the phone. Something's not right here.
Yeah.
Like, how does this happen?
Right.
It's terrible.
I have that neighbor at the rental place in UH that she's been pretty old and having a hard time getting around for years now. And it's a bungalow kind of situation. It's not a bungalow. What are those houses called?
Well, it's colonial, basically.
Colonial. There you go. Right.
2-story.
There's 3 sets of stairs. You got the basement, you got your mid floor, and you got your upstairs. Yeah. I don't know how she's navigating that stuff. Her washer and dryer in the basement, her bedroom's in the upstairs. I don't know how she's doing those stairs. And I don't know what their kids are doing about it. Hell, the boy, the young man went off to San Francisco. The daughter went off to Boston. They're on opposite sides of the country. And I think that she's very stubborn about staying there too. But I just think that could have a tragic ending because of those stairs. Yeah.
And she's got nobody looking in on her.
Right. So we're all in these unique situations, and our elderly parents are all unique in and of themselves. So it's tough, and it's a tough conversation. It's not the most fun.
No,
but we got to compare notes. Yeah.
And very necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always hope. It never is as bleak as it seems. But it is a lot of work. But then I do think about it, as a parent as well, it's a lot of work to raise a kid.
Oh God, yeah.
I feel like, I owe it owe it to my mom to do as much as I can, because she did a lot for me. And my father would want that too.
Yeah.
He'd be awfully upset if we weren't, doing what we can do.
For sure.
That's how you got to look at it.
There you go. Very good. I think that's a good place to end. And I really appreciate you coming on the podcast with us. I think there's some valuable, like I said, notes to compare there. That's all.
Yeah, that's fine, because I got to get over to mom's with those batteries. And if I run late, I'll have to tell her I was doing a podcast, and that's just going to be, what's a podcast? It's a conversation I don't need to have.
Yeah. And I've brought this up many times in the family, and I tell people, don't watch it.
Yeah.
I don't want to explain. I don't have to explain myself about it.
Yeah, don't watch it. Don't watch it.
I'm the only person that tries to reduce their audience. All right, Dan. Hey, I really appreciate it, man.
All right, Barry.
Have a good day. Talk to you real soon.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Right. Bye.